Hey there, Blockhead Traders. Here at Blockhead Traders, I must inform you that we are not financial professionals. Nothing we say should be considered financial advice. We offer our own thoughts and opinions to you, the viewer. We expect you to take these opinions, form your own financial conclusions, and make your own financial decisions. Today is Wednesday, April 10th, 2024, and this is Blockhead Traders Weekly. In this week's episode, I'm joined by Viper XL 007, and we are going to talk about a thing called thematic investing. This is not something that we've talked about historically. In fact, we typically stick to trading. So we're going to kind of broach this topic of thematic investing because it's kind of been on the top of my mind lately. And I just want to talk through some of this stuff. And two of these themes, as we'll talk about the thematic investing, is about taking a theme and then coming up with different investment strategies around that theme, kind of for the longer term. And two of the topics that we will kind of talk about today are electric vehicles and generative AI, two very hot topics in the media these days. But before we hop to that, I want to give a shout out to our Discord, a link in the description below. You can hop in there, say hello to myself, Viper, some of our traders. We love to hear what things you're trading and what type of content you want to hear about. You can also find a link to thetagang.com/sprocket888, where I post each and every one of my equity trades, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Lastly, this is available in an audio-only format wherever you get your podcasts. So look us up. If you can't find us there, let us know, and we will get it there. But let's hop to the content this week. And Viper, thematic investing. Now, this is, I'll just kind of introduce the concept just a little bit here. And this is where you take some sort of theme or idea and you build an investment portfolio kind of around it, or you make longer term investments in a particular theme, whether that's, green energy, electric vehicles, generative AI, just the retail trades, or some new amusement park thing, or something along those lines. It's basically taking some theory or theme and then looking through the things that fit that category and trying to pluck out high value things, growth things, depending on what you're after. And then you kind of invest in those things. And this is an important distinction because a lot of times we are talking about what you and I call trading. We have episodes in the past where we deal with the differences of time horizon. And a lot of times that makes the difference between what is a trade, what is an investment. And usually an investment, I believe you or I both consider this multiple years. Whereas a trade, I think you or I might consider in a day, in a week, a few hours, few minutes, right? All those are trades. For me, I think my longest time horizon on what stuff that I call a trade is maybe about a month or two. And that's in selling my premium. But a trade is you're in, you're out, you hit a price target, and you move on. A lot of times investing is a little bit more longer term and you kind of build over time. I would say some of the stuff you've talked about on the show as far as dollar cost averaging, you're building an investment in those things.
Yeah. And I'd even go one step, you kind of hinted at it there, but I would go one step to surface it out. Yeah, I agree with the whole time horizon point of classification. But I would say it's even more telling if anybody's like, I don't know, am I trading or am I investing? That in an investment, your goal, and this is what you touched on where you said price target. To me, an investment is where your goal is not a price target. Your goal is something, some moment, I want to invest in this because I believe at point XYZ, everybody's going to have this car, or whatever, that sort of thing. So there's a slightly more gray area moment you're waiting for in an investment versus a trade where it's, no, I don't care what's happening here, the chart is trending this way and there's the price target here, so when we hit this, no matter how long it takes or how quick it happens, I'm in, I'm out, bing bang boom. So if anybody struggles with the distinction, maybe that helps clarify. But yeah, certainly to me, it's kind of a combination of the two.
So, in this episode, Viper, I thought let's touch on two things that probably both of us are somewhat familiar with. One probably more so than the other, and I guess this really stemmed as almost a passion thing for me a little bit. The first topic of electric vehicles, and then we'll kind of jump to generative AI. We'll try, hey, put this on double speed or something. It's audio only. We got no content, no visual content to show you, but dialogue for sure. So, why do I want to talk about electric vehicles? And I'm a subscriber to the Wall Street Journal. I very much enjoy reading the Wall Street Journal. I think it does a very good job of giving you a wide spectrum of news. As when it comes first, that's your first clue, news, right? News is noise, is usually what we say in the Discord. It's usually what you see when we trade. A lot of times when we're trading something, we don't care what's in the news for this, that, or the other thing. I guess unless it's pharma, we might care about that in pharma. But outside of that, we're trading the chart, we're trading the price action, we're trading variables, things like that. We don't care about any of the fundamentals or even the stories that are driving them. But one thing that has recently come up in a lot of the news articles that I was reading is almost a souring by media stories on electric vehicles. Um, the customers or the consumers are not ready for electric vehicles. There's been recent headlines of some of the big three automakers, GM and Ford, dialing back their aggressiveness to transition to electric vehicles. Hertz calling its transitioning to the EV fleet of all of its Teslas one of the biggest mistakes it has ever made. Ousted their current CEO, and I really have picked up, and this is what I use the Wall Street Journal for, is a lot more of meta themes and sentiment in an industry. Right? I don't usually use the Wall Street Journal to pick apart or get into an exact pulse on things, but I use it more for, hey, what's the world kind of talking about? What's the general temperature of things? And I think the reason that I find EVs such a passionate topic is really two reasons. One, the first large part of my career, 15 plus years in the working world, was at an automotive OEM maker. So I worked at a automotive OEM. I don't work there anymore, but I currently own and drive an electric vehicle. And so I feel like I have a lot of industry experience being in that space. I also feel I have a lot of firsthand knowledge on electric vehicles and what it's like to own one and what it's like to drive one. People talk to me all the time about their questions and stuff like that. Oh, you drive an electric vehicle. Can you go very far from your house? And so I get where a lot of these articles are coming from as far as consumers really. I won't say that they're really changing their mind, but there was a time, not the distant future, that the media was hyping up EV vehicles as, oh my gosh, all these automakers are getting left behind, yada 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 yada, and everybody was clamoring to jump to EVs, and now everybody's kind of backing off. And why am I bringing this up at all? Why does this? How does this fit into thematic investing? And I'll give you my personal thematic investment consideration here that I'm looking at when it comes to electric vehicles. I was a true electric vehicle, like, yeah, there's no way, it's cute. Golf carts are for EVs, whatever. I'm never going to drive an electric vehicle, blah, 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 blah. I'm also a technologist. I love technology. I'm a geek. I love computers, all of that fun stuff. And Tesla came on the scene, and they started really centralizing around the technology in the car. And their actual car was very lackluster. There was really no bells, no whistles, no everything. It was very minimalist. But I was enamored by the technology, and so many years ago, I was like, someday I want to drive a Tesla. Someday I want to drive a Tesla. Someday I want to drive. Well, anyway, several years ago, two years ago, I ended up getting a Tesla and driving a Tesla. Very curious about it. Very wanting to experience it. Okay, fast forward. What does all this mean? I really think a lot of the automakers were on the right track when they were putting a lot of oomph behind EVs. Do I think consumers will pick up and flip the switch to them? Absolutely not. but I don't think the automotive industry does not innovate fast. It is a slow behemoth. It is turning the Titanic. I worked in one for multiple years, and bringing new innovative technology and challenging things is not something the automotive industry does well. So in what might take a startup or something like that, a matter of a year or two, the automotive industry, you're talking a decade. So it is a very, very slow turning ship. So I was excited to see them put a lot of stuff behind EVs. Now, I drive an EV. I was very skeptical. How much am I going to like it? Am I going to get range anxiety? Am I going to do this, that, the other thing? How is it? I'm taking it on a trip, blah, 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 blah. I get it. I was 100% not sure. So I know where a lot of the people are coming from. I just think they have to experience it and they have to learn it. So where does all this thematic investing come from? Because one of the things when you're looking at investments is you want to buy a good house in a bad neighborhood. I think that was a common thing from Warren Buffett, right? He would always look in robust industries and then try to find the diamond in the rough, try to find the good value company. And all of this, let's say, negative press on electric vehicles is really putting the rain clouds are coming out on EV stocks all over the place. Basically, they're getting hammered down. Prices are dropping. People are abandoning them. The media is talking bad about them, and so everything's coming down. So this is where investing comes in. Because if you fundamentally have a belief in the underlying technology, the underlying theme, right, this is the time that you want to start considering putting in to the long term for this. So what mistake might be happening now, or what thing has really kind of triggered me to bring this up now? And I will say it is a lot of the news articles of the big three dialing back their EV efforts. So why that's important here is because developing a car, developing a technology is extremely intensive in resources. It is not a non-trivial thing. No matter what you think, oh, it's just like a car. I guarantee you that investing in anything is very, very high resource intensive when it comes to automotive space. So what these automakers are doing, right? They were behind the eight ball years ago when Tesla came out and they were EV this, EV that, right? They weren't not even really doing any electrification of their fleet. That was bad. They jumped to EV, they tried to catch up. That was good, in my opinion. Now, they're dialing back the EV and they're trying to pivot to hybrid technology. Now, I am absolutely not opposed to hybrid technology. However, what I think is a bad move is I don't believe that these companies have enough resources to focus on both hybrid technology, internal combustion, and EVs, right? Because internal combustion engine is still here. They're still developing it. Nobody ever quit cold turkey to all EVs. So that's still there. Now they're bringing back the hybrid technology and they're trying to bridge the gap between the internal combustion and EV with this hybrid technology, which is great. Okay, kind of makes sense. But at some point, that would have made sense, 4 or 5 years ago, because the lead time to develop this stuff and get it out there is going to detract away from pure EVs. You have pure EV players out there like Tesla who were starting to get challenged on their offerings. They were starting to get challenged on their designs. Well, guess what? This is going to give those automakers that are pure EV a jumpstart. Those guys are focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's perfecting the EV car. You're going to have this distraction by these companies that are focused in on this hybrid. What does this do? To me, this opens up an opportunity because in my opinion, the companies that are focused on pure EV are the companies that, yes, they're going to take a short-term hit from all the sentiment that's out there in the market, but they are focused on the long game. And that to me means I believe there's going to be good value coming up in those type of pure EV plays because that is where they are focused. And I do truly believe after driving an EV and experiencing that, that it will not take that long after the general consumer starts driving it and they start talking to their neighbor And then their neighbor's like, well, Bob over there, he got an EV and he told me, and that wasn't so bad. So maybe I'll try an EV, and it will spread like wildfire. And then you're going to get stuck, in my opinion, with a bunch of, hybrid technology, things like that, which is not bad. People will use it. It's going to be good. But those automakers are, in my opinion, are going to be at a disadvantage on the long-term trends here.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's the idea of thematic investing. I mean, I think it's good to talk about and good to point out, because hopefully, as you, the viewer out there, brand new, don't know what you're doing or how to get involved and whatnot, I think this idea of thematic investing is actually a really good entry point. In the sense that obviously this is not financial advice, but in the sense that you're probably passionate about something, you have a hobby, or just something attracts you, whether it's a particular market, a particular industry, electric vehicles, video games, whatever. You can use that to keep the markets interesting. Because I think that's one thing a lot of people get confused on, is they think, well, to be a trader, to be an investor, this is like this boring, like, I have to, what is the yield? And no, that doesn't have to be, if that's not something that excites you. I mean, like you just heard from Sprocket, as far as electric vehicles, there's this depth of experience and knowledge, combining a professional career and personal experience, and that's a very powerful force to lean into in this particular way. And as a bonus topic of the two that were mentioned at the beginning, it's not something I've talked about much on the show, because, again, Blockhead Traders, not Blockhead Investors, but I've been doing the same exact thing, surprise, surprise, crypto, in the world of crypto, and just how much I've been paying attention, as you know, longtime viewers, as we've gone through various ETF things and this, that, or the other. I've been playing that same mentality, not in cryptocurrencies, not on the tokens or anything like that, but in the stock market. Obviously, there's the spot Bitcoin ETF. That's an easy one. The Bitcoin exposure, all that stuff we've talked about. But more to what Sprocket was just saying, as far as the suppliers and, finding this, that, or the other, the one thing that journeyed down the rabbit hole as we led up to the ETF approval, the one thing that stuck out to me was the realization of, we talked about it on the show, that, hey, wait a second, I don't remember the exact number now, but like 80% of these spot ETFs are naming Coinbase as their custodian of assets. And there's a fee associated with that, isn't there? And so then I went down that rabbit hole of like, well, all right, so who are the players in the market, in equities, in the stock market? Who are the players that are playing into this narrative that I have a strong conviction on, as far as opening up those floodgates that we talked about, as far as bringing more speculative investment into the space? And so obviously Coinbase is one of them. So I jumped on that and, was fed into it by some of those data points, as far as Coinbase being the custodian of these assets and things like that. Robinhood is another one, ticker Hood, and Coinbase, ticker Coin, for those who don't know. Robinhood was another one that I have been a, not long time, but for the past year or so, I've been using the Robinhood ecosystem. I've been digging into and watching their crypto exposure carefully, because I feel like, we've obviously seen the headlines of Coinbase and how they've been exposed to the SEC and these lawsuits and all these sort of things, and Kraken and these other U.S. regulated companies that take these strong scrutiny hits from the SEC. And that put Robinhood on my radar, because I was like, all right, well, if Coinbase is getting all this scrutiny, I mean, they're going to come out fine. Like we've talked about that on previous episodes. But I was like, it makes an interesting case in the case of Robinhood, which is an actual brokerage that is going from brokerage to include crypto offerings, versus Coinbase, which is just full on crypto first. And so that kind of played into my investment theory or thesis as well to start to do that. And those were kind of my top two picks of like, all right, as we march into this realm of the unknown, Coinbase and Robinhood are positioning themselves as significant and serious players, both in two very different ways. So I loaded up that investment mindset, and I have DCAs that continue to this day. Though I did take sizable positions in them early on, as the news before the news was unfolding and things like that. So I would say it's very, very near and dear to me as well in ways that we haven't really talked about. That I am actively participating as well in this thematic investing.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I really like how you started out there calling out this is a way that you can become interested in the markets, because it kind of goes back to, you'll hear me talk about it a lot, that actually it was just an episode or two ago, we talked about the way that the capital markets can really build wealth. And if something isn't interesting to somebody, you're just not going to do it, right? You don't do things where you're like, yeah, whatever, it's kind of boring, it's kind of whatever. You do things that are fun. You do things that are interesting in life. And so if you can find a way to become interested in the capital markets, whether that's looking at charts and seeing price action, yeah, maybe that's not your thing. Or if it's maybe following a particular technology and being enthusiastic about it and looking for opportunities to invest in it, right? It's that those that are engaged are the ones that will be met with the most success, is you really have to kind of focus in and care about it. If you don't really care about it and you're not interested, you'll just have mediocre results. That's just true. So yeah, I really like how you kind of call that out. And your thing is crypto, and absolutely that is thematic investing. Um, Moving to the second topic that I have is generative AI, or AI in general. I mean, talk about a polarizing headlines that I've seen out there. On one hand, you'll pick up the paper and you'll read AI is going to wipe out humanity, or AI is going to put us all out of a job. And then on the other hand, you'll have articles that say AI is going to revolutionize the capabilities and potential that we have. As like, you just get absolutely polar opposite news headlines, and that really helps drive volatility, which I love to trade. But it usually means there's something going on there, and I think as a technologist, I think you're also in the same boat here. Is that generative AI is interesting. Um, and kind of what I would put out, my perspective on generative AI and AI in general, is very similar to my view on crypto. Is, you know what? I don't really know who the winner of something is going to be, what is going to emerge at the end of what it's going to be. But I do fundamentally believe in the underlying technology. So in crypto, I fundamentally believe that cryptocurrency and blockchains have a place in the world, and that's going to grow. I feel the same way about generative AI and other aspects of AI, where absolutely that is going to become ingrained and commonplace everywhere. So, do I know how to pluck things out of there right now? No, but I know infrastructure of things, right? Just like crypto. And the payment stuff that we've talked about, right? I want to get in on the validator nodes. I want to get in on the plumbing of the cryptocurrencies and the blockchains. I am perfectly fine and comfortable getting in on the infrastructure that drives AI, right? Those are your companies of NVIDIA, right? They're making the chips. What are the things that make the servers that hold the chips? What are the companies that are buying the chips to implement some sort of software, right? What's all the underlying plumbing? Because if we think back to a similar phenomenon, right, the .com boom, right, everybody e-commerce, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, e-commerce is going to rule the world. Everything's going to be electronically available, and storefront this and storefront that. Could anybody have predicted in the early things that some random bookstore was going to become the online shopping place juggernaut that it is today of Amazon? No. Did we all turn away and run from e-commerce when the .com bubble burst? I mean, a little bit momentarily, but that technology and that fundamental thing stuck around. And so that's where I fall down on generative AI and stuff is, are we in somewhat of a bubble now? Yeah, there's way too much hype over way too many things. And in 5 years from now, are those things going to stick around? No. But the underlying theme, I believe, could. That makes it ripe for this thematic investing to start picking through all of that environment there and deciding what interests me, what makes sense in my brain to be a thing that can stand the test of time when it comes to stuff. Similar to the way that you just mentioned, Viper, of digging in to a lot of these crypto things and saying, wow, Coinbase is located in all of these things, or this particular underlying thing exists everywhere, right? That's where you can kind of sift through all this hype, all this news is noise, and there are nuggets of substantial things in there that you can build into this thematic investing.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, to risk just restating things you just said, like, I mean, my take on generative AI is similar in that, to me, the best absolute pinnacle use case of technology is when technology gets out of the way and just lets a user connect to their ideas and to all that sort of stuff. So that, to me, as far as generative AI goes, obviously this isn't a discussion on any of the ethics of it and artists and the future of artists and all that sort of stuff. That's a whole other conversation. But to me, the power of generative AI is that it just opens up those doors so that it is so much easier to go from, I have an idea and boom, here it is on paper or in design or whatever. Because I'm very much a believer of, I guess more on the ideology, believer of, like, the world has never seen 90% of the best ideas that have ever happened. And that's just because these things, there's these roadblocks of bringing ideas to life. Things like generative AI smash down those barriers. But that is all to say that, obviously if you hear that and you don't connect with that at all, you're like, I don't know. I get that you guys are excited about this, but I don't feel it. It looks like a black box. Well, that's fine. That just means this isn't your thing. The only thing I'm trying to impress here upon is that it's this thinking, whatever it is that you have this level of thinking on, of this is big. Here's the underpinnings of what's happening, and here's the inner plumbing and the road work and the things and the ways this will fall out and roll out. How do I go plug into these different things? It doesn't have to be technology. It can be a completely different industry or just a completely different wing of technology. But the thoughts that drive it, I think, are very similar to what's on display here from our technologist perspective.
Yeah. And I think it also goes in line with, when we talk about trading, we talk about what's happening under the hood, right? What are the mechanics of what's going on? And I really think that's kind of evident in thematic investing as we're kind of bringing it to you today, right? You're picking a theme and then you're saying, wow, I'm interested in this theme, but what makes this theme a thing? How does it work? What's under the hood? What's involved, right? And you're basically doing the same thing as we've talked about in our trading stuff. You're just doing it on a completely different subject matter, right? You take clean energy. Oh, what about clean energy? Oh, there's generation. How do we generate clean energy? Okay, that's a whole theme. Like, what's involved in that? How do you manufacture things that help generate clean energy? Blah 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 blah. There's transmission of clean energy. What's in the transmission lines? How do we get this energy from point A to point B, right? That's another aspect of this theme, right? And so what we're just really calling out is, think about the things that you're interested in, and chances are there is some aspect of that that you can invest in. There's something that you can take your subject matter expertise on and dig into it and be interested at the same time. It could be sustainable farming, right? Maybe there's some tie into technology, but it's not a computer, it's not a widget, it's not generative AI. It could be the way to produce something, and there's just so many facets. Does that stuff excite me? No, that's why I don't really know what the heck I'm talking about when I'm mentioning it. But that just means that that's not my gig, that's not my shtick.
Then the last thing I would say on the subject of thematic investing is a lot of these consumer retail focused trading apps, investing apps. Obviously, Robinhood being one of them, though I don't. It's been a long time since I've looked for this particular feature, so I don't remember if it was Robinhood or if it was a different app that I can't think of the name of. But there was a trading app that, or investing app that let you round up expenses on your debit card, and it would deposit the roundup amount. But that one, whatever the name of it was, if they even still exist, they were really focused on not having you trade particular stock positions, but they had these baskets of thematic investments where they would boil it down to a very retail friendly level of green energy. I'm sure if it still exists, there's absolutely an AI bucket. And, there's all these buckets of thematic investing that if you poke around in the retail apps, find one that does something like that. I mean, that's an even better place to start of like, all right, obviously on this show, we would encourage you to take full control of your investments and things like that. But as an initial step, like just to do something, expose yourself to one of those funds. And then while that's cooking, look under the hood of like, all right, but who's in this basket of assets? And then start digging in and start your news research there. Set up a news feed of like, for the AI, here's all the companies that we're trading. Give me news alerts for all of these, and don't force anything, but constantly keep the door open and exposing yourself to these flows of information on something that you're passionate about. And I mean, honestly, it just kind of takes care of itself from there when you can create that kind of flywheel effect.
Well, that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Thematic Investing. And, the real takeaway here is it's not about necessarily the themes that Viper and I are excited about. I think you probably could pick up a little bit on some of our excitement or passion on different particular topics that we talked about, as well as ignorance to other ones where like you're probably like, what the heck is he talking about? That's not how that works. That's not my theme. The underlying concept here is there is a way to become engaged in things, and it's not as boring as staring at candles going up and down. Now, that might be exciting to you, and in that case, maybe thematic investing is too abstract or not up your alley, and yeah, stick to the technicals, stick to the chart reading. But for those of you that are trying to build wealth and just can't get excited about candles and price levels and targets and all of that stuff, maybe thematic investing, digging into content and types that you are excited about, that you are interested in, that you have personal experience in, that relevancy and context to you might be just enough to get you interested in that and get you to go in and dig in and put investments and trades. I mean, you can even trade with themes. You can do thematic trading, where you're really just kind of banking on what the other market is going to interpret on news events or upcoming things. You absolutely can do this on any time horizon. My thing is it doesn't make sense to me on the short-term time horizon because that's not what really excites me. But longer term, that's where I get into this electric vehicle where I am extremely passionate, both from the car that I have and the automotive industry experience that I've had from my career. Generative AI, again, as one of those, what I believe is kind of a technology shift that's going to start becoming kind of the new norm into from here and on. Of course, maybe this episode will age really funny and it'll be like 3D TVs. I mean, remember those? That was going to be the new thing. I don't even know if those things are even still around. But end of the day, this is all about trying to get you excited about the market and get you into the markets and try to build, because there is no greater tool for generational wealth building than capital markets. So good luck out there, whatever you're trading. Hopefully you're finding something exciting. Good luck, and remember, think outside the block.